It was, you know what? This film actually had a lot of interesting little Fritz Lang little bits.
Touches. Yes.
Yeah, had little touches to it here and there. It was kind of interesting. In terms of like, there was some wonderful bit where I think was it a hat that rolled on the ground or something like that?
The thing behind me.
Yeah,
the bowler hat goes
right there. Hat, yeah. It was like there's some nice little touches there, and
after he smothers him with it.
For a low budget studio film, that was actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. This was an easy movie to pull screenshots for, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of little like nice little moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately
what?
By other things.
I wish I'd seen a better print.
Me too. The sound and the picture.
I went back and I watched the good one. About 40 minutes into the free one, I'm like, there's a better one. Oh fuck, I'm gonna go watch.
Look at how clear. Look at how clear this is. This print is excellent. Like the Pinewood restoration.
I was getting bummed out by the quality of the print, and I watched the good one, and that problem went away.
I didn't know there was a better one available, so I just suffered through the old moviness of it all, and I put the subtitles on almost immediately because the dialogue's like this.
Yeah, me and John, same thing. I was amazed by like they put like 17 changeover cues. Between the reels. That was
it's
cool.
a pretty beat up print, whatever that one was we were watching. Yeah, like how many prints of prints were we looking at?
The
good print though has two different places where there's a haircut in the gate. Like they couldn't get a full nitrite transfer of it, so they had to reconstruct some of it, and they still had hairs in the print. Hairs in the gate.
Mm-hmm.
But
apparently
it took like 2 years to do the full
restoration. There's a little title card that comes up before the restored version.
No, I think I missed it.
It didn't. Yeah, it's like what Criterion would have done.
Yeah.
You know what we talk about sometimes here is what's ripe for a remake.
Yes.
No shit. It's a remake.
This is a really solid plot, and it takes a little too long to play out what the plot is, but it's solid. And you could make a great movie out of this very story.
Correct.
Ironically, though, the movie's also a little slight. Like it's a decent plot and it's a little too long, but the movie's also slight. Like
well,
I think
there's a failure. It's too complex for what it's the story that it's telling.
Right.
Wildly uneven in tone.
This is the week of wildly uneven in tone.
The height of World War II.
Yeah.
And people are sort of. It's not your usual wartime propaganda flick. I mean, the Nazis are still assholes, but they're almost all Gestapo anyway.
This movie gets props for making this movie while this was still happening.
Yeah.
Right.
This film felt like, that parable about the blind man and the elephant?
Yeah.
The guys who made this film knew that Reinhard Heydrich got assassinated in Czechoslovakia in, was it 42? And had to reconstruct what exactly happened, and they didn't know. So this was like if someone described anthropoid you at a bar and you made a movie out of it.
Yeah.
Well, right. And after you woke up, you went out and wrote it down.
I remember everything.
Perfect.
Anthropoid
wasn't declassified until the 80s, I think.
Right.
So
so this is conjecture. It's a good guess, and it actually kind of describes.
They had two things. He got killed, and the Nazis killed a bunch of civilians in retribution. That's all they had. So they built a story in between those two things, like a drama.
The massacre of Ladice, right?
What?
The Ladice, the town they wiped out after Heydrich got killed.
I don't remember what.
There's two things happened. They knew that Heydrich got assassinated. They knew that the Nazis killed an entire town of people in retribution. And Ladice, I think it's Ladice. I can't remember how it's pronounced, but that's what happened. That's what they knew when they made this movie.
Yeah,
those two things.
I see. And they build quite a bit of suspense out of that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I also like the fact that Bertolt Brecht never wrote another story for Hollywood, but he took the proceeds from this one and wrote 4 of his famous plays.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's true.
I thought the writing like this movie looked pretty good a lot of the time. Like I said, there's a lot of really great little moments. It's a good story. Script. It's the wildly uneven quality of the acting, particularly the character actors. This fucking guy behind me, anytime he was on screen, the movie was 10 times worse. I thought Brian Dunleavy had one expression. I thought the female lead was terrible.
Funny because he's really a good actor. I've seen him. I think it was
I have no doubt
of not acting, but of direction. I think
this is his expression the entire movie.
Yeah,
every scene.
Also,
the girl.
Thank you.
This is her expression in every scene.
Chris, go back one. The uniforms were like high school version of
the swastika was all wrong.
The swastikas, they looked borderline.
Were they going the wrong way?
They're going,
no, they were too big in the circle.
It wasn't accurate at all. They just because it was like an impression of what a Nazi looks like.
It's not like after the war when you could pick up, Nazi uniforms cheap.
True, they were kind of. There was they couldn't.
They were in use at the time.
Yeah, I guess.
The guy they all pile on at the end. I mean, it was like, I don't know if you guys noticed Lionel Stander at one point showing up as like a cab driver.
Yes, with his accent. Yes.
Oh, I love him. Yes,
I do, but not in this.
Yeah, doesn't work
because like you guys are trying to tell like this sort of serious noirish story about it. I mean, like the story's great, but they filled it with all these guys doing like eyebrow acting, like
except for Walter Brennan. I think that's Brennan's best part I've ever seen him in.
And this guy,
he's so good.
I know. I mean, you take it like there's the perspectives.
I know. And you wouldn't know it by looking at him, but as soon as he opens his mouth, it's like, fuck, that's Walter Brennan.
Yeah. Really, it's Grandpa.
Walter Brennan there. Yep.
This guy, this Nazi, unbelievably terrible.
What's up with his voice?
Yeah, so many of the actors were, clearly Americans, just like Yada is the Castle of my Fada kind of shit.
Yeah. There were some howlers,
except for Heydrich. He was actually played by a famous gay German.
Oh yeah.
Well,
no, he made an impression.
2.5 minutes, and he made a hell of an impression.
But it was almost like LSD and Hitler. The Springtime for Hitler. It was like really
there's actually there is a somewhere in the back third of this movie they play music that sounds like Springtime for Hitler. Like there's actually a cue in the movie because I was sitting there and I was like, are they playing Springtime for Hitler? what the fuck am I watching? Like I had to stop for a minute and like go back and be like,
wait a minute.
No, but it's really close. Like,
one thing I thought of was that I've only really seen one Fritz Lang sound flick, and that's M. Yeah.
Oh, dude, what a movie.
And I noticed a lot of similarities, but they're 10 years apart or 13 years apart.
M's earlier, right?
I see M like
M is right at it was the first German sound flick.
Yeah.
M is the movie that basically meant that he had to leave Germany because it was about
on HBO Max right now.
I would tell anybody who wanted to learn how to make movies to watch M because it's fantastic in terms of
it's also Peter Lorre's best.
Peter Lorre, but the visuals and how the story's constructed out of little bits and pieces and how realistic it is amazing. And also the amazing amount of smoking and sausage eating in the film.
Well, I was waiting for Chris to talk about the smoking in this one and the French.
Dude, it was like chimneys, man. But that's kind of that's the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this one. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of really good elements in it, but it was for me consistently undone by the quality of the acting.
I had a tough time with just the delivery of the dialogue.
Yeah, me too. Like a couple of howlers in this thing.
Space in between. We're just used to more rapid editing.
Well,
yes, but there was a lot of like dead space between scenes.
Not a lot.
Yeah, but it was except when it was like the weird, the old 40s, like I'm gonna fade to black, and then there's gonna be like a second, and then it's gonna come to the we're not gonna do a jump cut.
A little curtain.
Yeah, pretty much. It was almost like a silent film with the iris in,
There's also at least 2 points in the movie where they sped up the film. Like, and it was just like, what the fuck are you doing? When they smother the Gestapo guy, which what you just had in that scene, when he runs up to him, they sped up him running up and putting the things over him. So it turns it's it's Benny Hill shit for a second there, and it's like,
This
what
was
the
full
fuck?
on Benny Hill.
But they used to do that. They did that in the 30s and the 40s, you know, and it stopped in the 50s, I guess. But
Yeah, that tiny clip I put up of like,
Yeah, they would just do stuff in the lab for more impact to speed something
right,
up.
like to speed shit up.
Right.
the little clip I added of like the 17 different changeover cues.
Yeah.
At the end, the dude turns his back and he slow him down. Dun dun dun. Well, giving his dialogue.
Yeah, I saw a few places where they did that too. It got kind of staccato because they were printing the frames twice.
Yeah, it was very strange.
So I don't know the backstory and like, was this a troubled production? I mean, I understand that they probably wanted to shoot on location, they couldn't, so it's almost all soundstage, right? But I thought they transcended that most of the time.
No, it was a big B picture, I think.
Yeah, I didn't read about any problems they had. Fritz Lang,
that's a great scene.
Yeah.
This
Lang
was
like
amazing. This you don't see this in movies nowadays. This was really well done.
That was really good.
I really felt the suspense there.
Yes.
Are the Nazis going to see the blood dripping down from behind the curtain?
Yeah, that was so good.
That's what I'm saying. This is the kind of thing. It's like, you know, they could make this movie now.
Right. They could.
And it would work.
Although it'd be another Heydrich film, but it's
Well, but I mean, it's.
But we have to review it.
The question is, you brought this up, like, so
after they shoot Putin,
anthropoids based on what actually happened. This is
Right.
an interpretation of what they imagined happened.
they think is happening. Yeah, it's really interesting.
You could make Anthropoid 4 hours and bring in all the what they did to the town and all, like, at the core of this is a great story about sacrifice and, you know, at what point do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one or the two.
And may I interrupt and say, holy shit, Walter Brennan's speech when he thinks he's being taken off to die.
Yeah.
I was crying, man. That was
good.
Good.
It was good. And man,
That
his delivery was like, it's not just that whole old prospector thing.
It wasn't the old prospector, right?
Yeah, it was like really amazing.
He was bringing it.
He was a versatile actor. I had no idea.
Yeah, me
He
neither.
was just a Western guy, you know.
Yeah.
It's just like
he got typecast as old men because in World War One he had all of his teeth pulled out.
Oh, sorry, that's why he talked like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sure, he could talk like that. Really?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
The part in the when the doctor's talking about how he's going to go turn himself in, and he's like, no, you can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
you like that's a really, really good scene.
Yeah, that's a hell of a scene.
because it not just from the acting perspective and all of that, which is interesting, but also from the perspective of the movie. Like he could turn himself in, and that's the end of the movie. Like, so why doesn't he? Why doesn't this character, who's a good and honorable person, who's looking around at all of the horror that's about to unfold around him, not do the honorable thing and go and kill himself with the confession and be? And it's like, because you can't, because we are more important as an idea than we are as individual people. And your sacrifice death here is actually worse for us in the long run than you being alive and us being able to continue to fuck with
it. Was such a cogent and well-written argument.
It was
really I thought it was,
which you never hear. You never hear that argument.
Arguments that I actually believed. You know, it rang true.
Yeah.
The guy who later gets shot in the gut and bleeds all over everything.
Yeah.
The one who delivers that, right?
That's probably
like,
Bertolt
you
Brecht.
can't turn yourself in.
Yeah,
right.
That's probably Bertolt Brecht kind of pushing through this whole thing. But he had some real strong ideas about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Apparently he was denied a story credit for it too.
Oh,
like
really?
He apparently really co-wrote a lot of the base document that this came from with the author or with the screenwriter, and they denied him a story credit for some reason.
Maybe that's why he never wrote another one.
Yeah. Also, this film did okay in the Oscars, right? It got a couple.
Did it?
It got one for music.
Yeah. Huh?
Oh.
But a couple nominations, I thought.
He was another refugee from Germany or Austria, I think. Hans Eisler.
Mm-hmm.
Who also wrote he didn't write the lyrics, but he wrote the song that they sing about no surrender.
That was good stuff.
Yeah.
I know that whole thing. I wasn't sure if they were doing the English thing or they're like doing the thing.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah,
I wouldn't put it past Lang to do that.
I really didn't like that part with the singing. I was just like, okay,
two on the nose.
Yeah, just like, but when he read the poem, the first time, I was like, all right. And then when it was like, no, what was it again? And then like they start saying it again, I'm like, oh please no. And then
that's
they
the
start
moment
fucking singing it.
They felt the most like a propaganda film was those moments for sure.
Yeah, which I guess is allowable in the Second World War to make propaganda films. You think about it.
But I've seen an awful lot of them, and I think this is one of the better ones.
Right.
Yeah, but this is a better one because it's nuanced. You know what I mean?
So yeah, at the margin, I mean,
Oh,
I don't know. I
no.
think it was a mixed bag. There was a lot of stuff about this I liked, and there was a lot of stuff about it that made me
I
crazy.
broke a champagne glass.
Oh no, martini glass looks like.
Martini
Martini.
glass. Sorry.
Get it right.
Jesus, we have rules.
This is a society, Scott.
I know this is shit.
You are. It's worse than the general.
And I wasn't
strike.
even throwing into a fireplace in celebration of anything. That's terrible. All right, good enough.
Anyway, what were you saying, Chris?
No, I say there were.
Who knows?
For everything that I liked, there was 1.5 things that made me crazy.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't think I had as much of a visceral reaction to it because it all felt kind of weirdly light to me, and I just kind of went along. I coasted along on top of the waves as we were going along, which kind of took me out of it of thinking like, oh, this is a Fritz Lang film. He was a pretty fucking good director. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, this movie just sort of very surface level.
That's why it's like I don't know what the backstory is. Like, where was the problem? Was it the casting? Was it the I don't know. I don't know what the backstory was.
Because even when the Germans are speaking German, the direction isn't very good. They speak too fast, which is probably just because they didn't want to have too much unintelligible dialogue.
But that's the thing.
That was the thing I had to get used to almost immediately was, okay, so the Germans are going to either speak weirdly German with subtitles or the German accent in English. Yeah. And then the Czechs are going to sound like they're from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Like
the Star Wars rule where all the rebels were American and all the
that was the
and all the bad guys are English.
Get some consistency in the accents here, folks, because Lionel Standard is way over here.
Yeah.
And Dunleavy is over here. Like they're all different.
I know.
Yeah.
You know,
you kind of have to suspend disbelief.
I gotta let that go immediately.
There's the only movie that was made during this time that I think succeeds in that sense is Billy Wilder's 5 Graves to Cairo.
That's pretty cool.
The Germans all speak German unless they're like, Otto what's his name? Eric von Stroheim playing Rommel. Right. But everybody else, because there's so few people who are English speaking.
Mm-hmm.
True.
The ones that are like Brits, and so it doesn't matter. But
we're just watching this. I'm thinking about like Fritz Lang and as a director. I'm remembering M and Metropolis, and then Scarlet Street and The Big Heat. Yeah, this was like those are all great films. This one's kind of like a studio.
You didn't see the Dr. Mabuse remake?
Well, I've not seen a single Dr. Mabuse movie. It's weird. I just want that's kind of a blank area of my thing, but he's capable of great film noir, and this was kind of like the seeds of a good film noir. But it was a wartime. It was semi-propaganda, so it's kind of like
you kind of feel like the idea of making a movie where one of the worst Nazis gets murdered, and then 2 just fuck the Nazis, and all these people get to stand up and say fuck the Nazis over and over again. Just sort of like dragged everybody in. They didn't really think about what they were doing until it was over.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I guess we can do thumbs at this point.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'll give it a little bit.
A little bit higher than middle because it was like it was compelling, but it wasn't long.
It was interesting as a historical document.
Yeah.